The following podcast contains spoilers and words like piss, shit, and f***. We watch TV. We watch TV. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to We Watched a Thing. This week, I'm joined by a true podcasting legend. It is, of course, the legendary, the wonderful Paul from The Countdown. How are you doing, mate?
I'm doing very well, Billy, and not at all overawed by the introduction. So I'm sure I'll let down everybody because there's a big fat sort of topher-shaped hole, and now your wife-shaped hole to try and fill. And those two holes, so to speak, no one can step into them. Wait, that sounds really wrong.
I'll tell my wife that you said she has a big hole. Love that. But thank you so much for doing it. You honestly, The Countdown is probably my favorite podcast. I listen to it every single week.
Kind.
And
Thanks,
you
mate.
have been on this show once before, but sadly, we spoke about a film so bad that it remains to this day our least downloaded episode. So hopefully
awesome.
This is maybe a little bit better than Empty Man / Tommy Boy Redux.
You know, it was a Tommy Boy that sunk that episode, right? Not Empty Man.
Absolutely. People saw that in the title and just went, fuck that.
when this one doesn't download either, then we'll just know it's my fault. So we'll find out in very short order.
So how you been doing, mate?
Busy. Life is busy. Work is busy. Family has always got stuff on. So, can't complain. It's nice to peek behind the curtains, I guess. We're recording on a Friday night. It's nice to relax into this and to talk movies with a great podcaster himself, who I always, you and Toph and you and your and you and everyone, you and the friends.
Oh, mate,
I always look forward to your opinions on the film, and even though we wildly disagree at times, and that may not happen tonight, it's always entertaining, and I appreciate the technical side of things. I really do. So I know I'm preaching to the converted. These are your listeners, but they know they're on a good thing, and I'm so glad you hung around after Topher ran for the hills.
Well, you were a big part of convincing me to do that, and peek behind the curtains, you were the one who came up with the name Be Dizzle and Friends, so thank you for that. So of course you had to be one of the first people I reached out to, and I had to line you up for this movie because I know that you're a horror guy.
I am.
And you and I, from memory, were both pretty big fans of the 2018 Halloween.
Absolutely.
So I of course had to invite you here to talk about Halloween Kills. So, Halloween Kills is a 2021 American slasher film directed by David Gordon Green and written by Green, Andi McBride, and Scott Teems. It's a sequel, of course, to 2018's Halloween and the 12th installment in Halloween overall. It stars Jamie Lee Curtis, James Jude Courtney, Judy Greer, Andi Matichak, Will Patton, and Anthony Michael Hall. And I'm going to do this to you. What is it about, Paul?
It is about Michael, who, surprise, surprise, didn't die at the end of the first film, as we were led to believe.
Shocking.
He goes on a rampage through the streets of Haddonfield, headed towards, somewhere, which would be, I guess, a spoiler, but we do spoil things, towards his old home. Meanwhile, everybody else decides it's time to destroy Michael, and the mob mentality breaks out, and everyone's hunting him through the streets of Haddonfield. That's your plot. That's all there is. There ain't nothing more. Oh, you know those Strode women? They're all in the hospital. Don't worry about them.
Yeah. Where are they? Jeez. All right. Well, let's get straight into it then. I don't think I could hear the phrase "evil dies tonight" any more times.
Look, I know this is an audio medium, so I should not do the visual response, but I put my head in my hands and rubbed my eyes. It was so cringeworthy by the end of this film. Once or twice, yeah, okay, I'll let you be on the nose with that. But when it is the 15th or maybe even the 25th time, it really does start to rankle. What a stupid, stupid saying.
Yeah, it got really old really, really fast.
Like a lot of this film did, Billy, unfortunately.
Yeah, I didn't want to go and show my cards too early. A big, big disappointment after 2018's Halloween.
Yeah, I'm not sure where to start because there's so many different places you can pick this apart. Hey, well, how about this? How about we start with the positive parts?
Okay, all right, let's do that.
Short discussion. I'll just take over for a moment here. And I don't have a little lineup equivalent of Paul's big call because that would be ripping on you. So I'm hoping to hear one at some point tonight. But I thought the kills in this film were actually very well done. Like, if you want to see Michael destroy people, tear them to pieces, stab them in inventive ways, really let the blood flow, then this is the Halloween film for you. The body count in Halloween Kills would have to be the equivalent of at least 3 other Halloween films put together.
Yeah, I agree. And it's not just the high number. As you said, I think most of the kills are actually pretty interesting like visually as well. I think that there's some pretty cool stuff going on with the kills themselves. And I gotta say, there's one thing about this film that I both hate and admire at the same time. The screenplay and the structure is really bad. Like, it's really, really bad. But at the same time, I kind of don't mind the premise that this is almost a bit of an anthology film. And I don't know if you know what I'm talking about yet, but as you say, there's a lot of kills. Most of them are kind of unrelated, really. Like, this film feels completely jumbled. It's a bit of a mess. There's like 10 to 12 different little subplots going on here. You've got Big John and Little John, which is kind of strange. You've got
progressive. We've got a gay couple that lives in Haddonfield, Billy.
Yeah.
Amazing.
You've got the Strode women who are in the hospital, and there's the whole weird thing with the mob and the other escaped patient, which is a whole other kettle of fish that I'll get into later. Mm-hmm. But there's kind of all these different little subplots. And as far as that as an idea goes, I don't hate it. I don't hate the idea of a bit of an anthology Michael Myers film where you have all these different subplots. This was just executed really poorly, and not like the middle of a trilogy is the complete wrong place for that, I think.
Look, I would agree. Maybe it's a standalone other kind of film. Hey, you know that film 2018 where Michael got out? Well, here's all the other bits you didn't see on the night. All those other sort of characters who are affected that don't affect the main plot. That would be fun, I guess. Like Tales from Haddonfield or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, exactly. And just don't have Laurie in that one at all, because you may as well not have here, honestly.
Oh, she is superfluous, this film. And unfortunately, they kind of came out and said, look, we've got plans for a trilogy, especially immediately after the 2018 version was released, and it did gangbusters. I think it was the highest grossing horror film for its opening weekend in history at that particular point in time. So they went, we're going to get greenlit to this. We're going to do 3 films. Clearly, whatever ideas they had stretched only as far as 2 films, because just to follow Michael from the Strode house back to his house murdering people is not a movie. It's not an installment in a trilogy. What, other than Michael, and we don't really know how he advances and why he's doing what he's doing, but does anybody else get a character arc here in this film? Anybody?
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And, I tell you what, the first 5 minutes, I was like, oh, I'm into this. I love that it picks up exactly where the last one left off. You've got Laurie, leaving from the house, and she's yelling at the fireys, like, just let it burn. I really dug that intro, and I was like, oh, cool, we're in for something good here. I like the idea that it picks up the same night, but is the third one going to continue this same night as well? Because the rumors are that it's not going to. And if that's the case, I just don't understand why this film exists. Like, it seems like we should have just jumped straight to that third one.
Aside from the cynical acknowledgement of this will make money and has made money, even though in these COVID-affected times, and it dropped day and date onto Peacock as well in the States. So that's why it exists, because we know we can make money out of 3 films. And despite my complaints about this film and my overall grade at the end of this, I'm still going to go see that third one for sure.
Yeah.
I am, as you said, someone who really enjoys horror films, and I've now seen 12 of these films. This is by no means the worst of the 12, but it's certainly a far worse film than the original the sequel 2018 version.
Yep. Let me ask you this, as a horror guy, even though the kills were cool, were you scared at all in this film?
No.
But, I guess I need to kind of bring another question in. Have you been scared in any of the Halloween films? Or is it just not, like, does this kind of genre of horror just not actually scare you?
No, look, to be fair, I don't think I am a good, accurate audience for that, because I've seen so many horror films, and nothing about a guy wearing a weird William Shatner mask walking around stabbing people is overly frightening. Yeah. I think the first film way back in 78, which of course is almost a granddaddy of slasher films, in that so many films in the last 43 years have imitated or tried to, sometimes successfully, most often not.
Yeah.
They're the ones that they all pull the cues from. There are some oozing with atmosphere moments in that first one, which work. I wouldn't say I'm scared, but I am tense for the characters.
Yeah.
So that really works. And there is some of that in the 2018 version as well, because what I really liked about that version of Michael, and we'll get to how he changes in this version, is that he's meant to be 61 years old or whatever the hell he is at that particular point in time.
Yeah.
He's meant to be just this really super strong man who just has barely any pain reaction to things, because he's so focused on just whatever he's focused on.
Yeah.
And I like that version of him. What I don't like is what happened in this film when it just goes so far beyond the realm of anything remotely acceptable if he is just a man, which they've said time and again in even the lead up to this film. He's just a man. He's not supernatural. There is no mark of thorn. There is nothing along those lines. But yet the last 25 minutes of this film prove that he is more than a man.
I mean, even before the last 25 minutes, because I agree with you. One thing I've liked is that he's just a man. And this film very clearly, I think, quite outwardly states, no, he's clearly supernatural. Right from the start, the fact that he survived the fire, even.
Yeah,
and
with the singe.
Well, that's the thing. He's still in fucking clothes. Like, even Game of Thrones with Dany, who's the Queen of Dragons, her clothes still burned off. And sure, maybe that was for a little bit of eye candy. But it's like, you got to have some level of realism there. Like, his hair isn't singed. His mask, which sure, it's a melted Shatner mask.
It's melted on his cheek.
It just doesn't make... It's very clear from that opening that, okay, this guy can quite honestly just survive anything at this point.
I agree. And by the end of the film, and I guess we're going into it now, when we've got Laurie's voiceover pontificating, monologuing, maybe dialoguing to the sheriff who's next to her in the bed, I'm not quite sure, about the nature is evil and that with every kill he seems to get more powerful. As he rises up with a horde of people around him who have been hunting him the whole night, whose bloodlust is up and who have shot him several times, have beaten him everywhere, have stabbed him, including Laurie's daughter, countless times. He just gets up and mows them all down.
Yeah. But
how?
Yeah. And that's the other thing. If you've got a crowd that is that bloodthirsty for this man, you're telling me none of them are going to try lop his head off. Like, they're just going to, oh, cool, we stabbed him with a pitchfork. Job
That'll
done.
do.
Yeah, like, that just makes zero sense to me.
Yeah, it's really badly put together. I think that scene, the rest of the film, one other good thing about it, I think it's not badly shot.
I agree. I actually really like the look of the film, which is something that carries from the 2018 film.
Yeah.
I think the lighting is really nice. The cinematography is very well done.
For night, most of it's outdoors at night.
Yeah.
Or indoors at night. In fact, it all takes place in one night. So that I know from a little bit of experience, but obviously from hearing lots and lots of filmmakers talk, and I'm sure yourself as well, to shoot at night is that much more difficult than during the day. And it all pops and he's dark. It's dark and he steps out of it nicely. It's not quite Dean Cundy levels from the original film, but it's admirable, the job I think done here. But that last scene where he's suddenly just swinging the knife and it's all black in the background and he's cutting people's throats and there's this geyser of blood and stabbing someone else and they're falling out of shot and he kills that old sheriff from the original film, and Tommy Doyle and everybody else. It was awful. It was so badly put together. It probably wasn't helped by that monologue over the top of it, which I was just rolling my eyes so hard with. I could barely see what was happening, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
So was there a good performance then, Billy? Was there anybody in this film who you thought, okay, at least they're carrying some gravitas here, or they're making me believe / care about this person?
I mean, no. And I think you hit the nail on the head before when you said that the original, even though you weren't scared, there were moments where you felt tense because you for example, cared for particular characters. I think that's part of the reason this one falls so flat and didn't really have me feeling, because you just don't. Even the characters that were built up in 2018's Halloween for you to care about, you just don't so much in this film. And so you're really not tense at any point because you just don't really care.
Well, yeah, I think you're 100% hit the nail on the head. You've taken the three Strode women, the three generations of Strode women, all of whom, particularly I think the granddaughter in the first film, they do a really good job of making her a sympathetic character. But Judy Greer is good as the daughter as well. She's frustrated with Mum. Mum's clearly batshit insane. We don't believe her. We know she was attacked, but she's just never been able to let it go. Yep. She's so traumatized 40 years later. I'm sick of it and I want to protect my daughter from it. So you kind of get behind that too. And of course we know what's coming and therefore we sympathize with Laurie herself, and the podcasters come and interview her, and it's Fort Knox, and less said about the podcasters the better, but otherwise. Still, these three characters, you're right behind them. And then, the husband dies, the son-in-law, the dad dies, and everyone else gets sort of almost everyone else gets wiped out through the film. So they're left standing with injured and whatever else. Sure, I get it. Okay. surely we're going to focus on the three of them. And for whatever reason, Michael is going to come for them.
Yeah.
And that's what this film's going to be about. And had that been the film, i.e. the second film from the original timeline, Halloween 2, I think that could have worked, but they didn't obviously want to copy it too hard.
Yeah.
They've done it in a different direction, and it just hasn't worked because we are left with, hey, the best characters are sidelined. We've introduced a whole bunch of new characters, except they're not really new. There's a bunch of them that were all from the original film. Tommy Doyle himself, for example.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that just doesn't work. The reason that 2018's film worked so well is it did what all great Lego sequels do, where you don't need to be too familiar with the original to enjoy it. And this film, by bringing in all those older characters, they have to cram in so much exposition and flashbacks to try and make that work for people who haven't seen those original films that it becomes such a slog. And even though Tommy gets so much screen time in this film, you just don't give a shit.
He's almost the star. He's almost, I would say he's got more screen time than Jamie Lee Curtis.
Definitely he does. Absolutely.
Judy Greer.
And I'm with you on the Strode women. I'm actually a huge Judy Greer fan. And if it was me doing a trilogy, that's the way I would have done it is, the first film is kind of Laurie's film. Then this film should have been focused on Judy Greer, and then you've got the granddaughter in the grand finale of it all, as it were. And that's kind of how I think it should have been structured. But instead, they're completely just not present in this film.
And then we get the big death, if you will, supposed death, who knows?
Yeah.
Of Judy Greer's character, of Laurie's daughter, which my understanding is from hearing the rumors that maybe it's going to set Laurie off down a really dark path if she wasn't already.
Yeah.
Okay, I can buy into that, but as you say, it should have packed a punch, that death. It should have been, rather than an almost afterthought during the end of this monologue where she just gets killed standing for whatever stupid reason in the Myers house at the window that Michael Myers. And there's that supernatural implication again with Michael's reflection there.
Yeah.
And then he actually somehow materializes in the house behind her and hacks her up, and that's the end of the film.
Yeah.
Imagine if she had gone down swinging in this great big battle and saved Laurie and the daughter or something like that in the hospital, and we really gave a shit about that.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like the film's biggest problem is that I don't know if it really knows what it's trying to achieve. I think that there's something to be admired in the idea that Laurie thinks that Michael Myers is after her. She's convinced. She's spent 40 years setting booby traps and planning for it. And then the idea that really comes out in this film is that, well, no, he kind of just likes to kill. He's just wandering around killing whoever he can. And it's really not focused on her at all. And in some ways, I kind of like the premise of that. And if you delved into that a little bit more with how that then affected her, but it just doesn't. And I suspect that in the next film, a lot of that is just going to be wiped clean anyway.
Well, I can only assume that she chases Michael in the next film.
Exactly. That's what I'm guessing too. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not, rather than, now that we have established exactly what you said, which again, I do agree with you. That idea, the concept is quite interesting, that it was just happenstance really that took Michael to her house.
Yeah.
In the big final act of the first one. If it wasn't for the crazy doctor and all that took place there, that Michael would have just gone on his rampage, presumably again towards his house, and Laurie would never have been bothered. That would have been a pretty funny movie in and of itself, right? And look, we don't need you, Laurie. You can go home now. Oh, okay. Next film. But yeah, again, it has an interesting idea. Like you said, doesn't know what to do with it, and instead we just get, hey, I know what, let's just have another random couple of people get killed in a glorious bloodbathy kind of way. Yeah, yeah. And then so much of the runtime of this film is taken up with the mob hunting down this second escaped person. You're probably much more familiar with the rest of the Halloween franchise than I am. Is that something that's happened before? Is this a completely new thing for the series? I didn't understand the point of it. It just took up a lot of time. I think it's Halloween 4, but don't quote me because 4, 5, and 6 really do unfortunately blend together for me in my head. Yeah. They're all almost as bad as each other. I think in number 4, when it comes back to Michael Myers, when the night he came home, no, that's the tagline of a different one. I can't remember. But anyway, yes, there is a mob that are chasing him.
Yeah.
through trying to, but it's not the whole town. There's like 2 carloads full of hillbilly dudes running around trying to shoot him. And they actually shoot and kill an innocent kid who's dressed as Michael on Halloween at one particular point. So plays with that idea a little bit there, which not the whole film is dedicated to it though, so it's okay.
Yeah.
Whereas this film, that's the central plot line almost. Not the second guy, but the formation of this mob.
Definitely. Yeah.
And then how they go completely over the top. And I get that it is some comparisons to social events that are happening or have happened in the States in particular. But this was shot when? End of 2019?
Yeah.
So I guess that was after the George Floyd stuff, right? Or am I getting was that last year?
No, that was last year. Yeah.
So I guess it's happenstance that it sort of echoes some of this stuff, really. But yeah, so there is a pedigree for it, but it's so on the nose. And I don't know about you, Billy, but the people who'd seen, including Tommy, even though he was young, who've seen Michael, who's this hulking, great big 6'4" dude.
You're not going to mistake him.
The guy that they're chasing around the hospital looks like it could be Schmiegel's extra.
Yes, he does.
With hair.
Yeah.
How are you confusing these two?
Yeah. It doesn't track at all.
No. Yeah, and given that Michael just walks straight towards and kills anyone else who gets in his way, this guy has just spent his entire time running fearfully with a hospital gown or a insane asylum gown on. Like this, it's so dumb.
Yeah.
And it goes on for so long. And the only good bit in the entire part is when Jamie Lee Curtis or Laurie, knees a doctor in the balls, opens up a wound, and then goes, "Oh, I need a doctor."
Yeah. Okay, so back to your question about the performances. I mean, she's Jamie Lee Curtis. Obviously, Jamie Lee Curtis is great. The problem is that she just has really nothing to do in this film. Like, the most dialogue she speaks is that awful, awful monologue at the end, and that's the most she speaks in the entire film, which is such a crime.
Agreed. And otherwise, she's reduced to either, that one bit where she's trying to stop the crowd, opens up a wound, and talking to Will Patton, who magically also comes back in this film because they've decided, it's Will Patton, we probably shouldn't get rid of an actor of his quality, therefore we'll put him in a bed and let him do nothing the entire film. Yeah.
And that's a problem with this kind of genre as well. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Judy Greer come back in the next film.
Yeah.
But if they do that, I mean, it already had such little impact that will just take away any impact at all. Like, as you say, perhaps what will happen is that Jamie Lee Curtis will find out, that'll kind of spur her on and she'll hunt him down. But, I mean, if Judy Greer comes back, then there's just nothing there.
Look, I agree. But it might be that I can't remember what Will Patton's character, Deputy Hawkins. Maybe he and Laurie go together because he had decided that Michael needed to die. Because I didn't mind that. What did you think of that? The sort of retconned in kind of side story from the 78 original.
Yeah, I didn't mind that. I thought that was an interesting spin on it. And like I said, the first kind of 10-15 minutes of this film had me, including that bit. When he is there telling this kid, about that past, and then you get Jamie Lee Curtis continuing on from 2018 film. I liked all that stuff. Mm. It was really just all of the random subplots that just got me. And particularly, I felt with this movie that I could feel every time 15 minutes had passed. Like every 15-minute increment, I was like, okay, the film just went down another half a star. We've just passed another 15 minutes in time. Yep, they've just said evil dies tonight again.
That's a very good call. Yeah, I thought that was quite interesting the way that they added that in and had Jim Cummings in it, who's a pretty good little indie actor, I think. And in his role, he gets killed, and it's all Hawkins' fault, and he blames himself, and blah blah blah. All that one flashback was good. Yeah, I think they went back to the well a few too many times with regards to that. But I have to say, the Donald Pleasance actor, who I did some reading in makeup, I actually thought they'd somehow just CG'd in something he said during outtakes. I thought it looked really good. Yeah, same, actually. Yeah, I thought that a lot of the casting for the flashbacks was pretty good. So that kind of worked as well. But I just kept coming back to the fact that all it is Michael running across more random characters we've either just introduced or reintroduced. And of course, I think all but one of them from vague memory dies. And that's one who ran into the forest and got away. I don't know why she lived, but she did. Yeah. Well, one more positive. I don't want to sound too negative. The score is still not as good as the original, but you're playing with Carpenter's original melody there, which is just
a staggering piece of score work. I really, really love the score.
Iconic, absolutely iconic. And of course, it's Carpenter himself and his son, Cody Carpenter, and then Daniel Davies together. I thought the score was still very good. It kind of rescued some of that atmosphere that was missing.
Yeah, same.
Maybe not quite as good as 2008. Of course, nothing, as you say, I agree, compares to 1978. But this sort of updated version, I really dug all that stuff. I haven't sat down and listened to it again, whereas the 2018 Halloween, the big piece from that one, Halloween Triumphant, is on repeat on my long run playlist, so I hear it a lot.
You brought them up before, but how much were you missing the podcasters, mate?
Not really, to be honest. I think there's a way to depict podcasters on film, and I don't believe that they got it right in the 2018 version, particularly the fact that the microphone could be some 30 feet or 40 feet away and pick up the guy perfectly. Not that he ever said anything, of course.
I don't think I've ever seen podcasters depicted well on film, like between this and Godzilla. I mean...
Or what was it, Zach Braff's show that was about a podcast? That didn't last very long either.
No.
I think maybe podcasting is death. Although, what's that new show that's on Amazon Prime with Steve Martin and Martin Short and Selena Gomez? Aren't they all podcasters?
Yeah, Only Murders in the Building. That's a great show, actually.
Okay, there you go. They finally nailed it.
Yeah.
We'll give that one a watch. Actually, one other point is I felt like even the kills, as much as we praise them for some of their inventiveness, and we probably should acknowledge our favourite kill at some point, given if we're going to do this particular film, but I felt like the film couldn't tonally settle down on what it wanted you to react to with some of these deaths. Like some of them that played for real keeps, like, oh, this is really heartfelt and horrible, particularly the Big John and Little John. I thought they really wanted you to care about those two characters.
Yeah.
But then we had the African-American couple who were introduced at the bar, and when Michael attacked the car that they are in with some of those returning characters, the nurse from the first film as well.
Yeah.
And their deaths were so over the top and comical. Like when the woman shoots herself in the face when Michael throws the car door open, the film wants you to laugh, right? That's not just me.
Well, I wasn't sure because I felt like this film was missing a bit of humour. And you're right, when it was there, it felt like you weren't sure if it was supposed to be funny or not. Because I remember 2018's Halloween having, a little bit of humour injected into it. This one seemed to...
The African-American kid, the way he reacted to Michael was awesome.
Yeah.
In that version.
This one seemed to take itself very, very seriously, I thought. And you're right. So it was tonally a bit strange when stuff like that happened.
Yeah, it really sort of threw me like, oh, we're meant to care about this person, or this is a great kill. Look how the gore effects we've got working here. Well done, us, yay. And now we want you to care about this person. But this one, they're a loser. They could just die. You can have a giggle at them, right?
Yeah.
Pick a lane.
Yeah,
one or the other.
Yeah, it's still a person dying, right? Like,
exactly.
You should care.
If the funniest thing in your film is people dying, you probably, or other than Tucker and Dale versus Evil, you probably missed the mark.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So, all right, what was your favourite kill?
Ooh, I think probably the one that stands out in my memory, and it's for a nothing character who we do get a little bit of warmth between the old couple that Michael comes after he slaughters all the firefighters at the start of the film.
Yeah.
When he breaks that fluorescent light bulb and slides it through her neck, that's some pretty amazing effects work, I reckon. And then she's dying slowly on the floor. She drags in the husband and just stabs him about 20 different knives.
Yes, and she's just sitting there watching as he's just repeatedly stabbing him, picking up knife after knife. And that was actually a great Michael moment where you see him, it's like he's not even thinking about it, like it's just what he's doing. He's just picking up a knife, stabbing it. That was a very cool moment.
I think they were trying to go for he was angry after what happened in the first film. At the end of the first film.
I didn't get that.
Because I think that's... because like normally he'll kill people and he'll do the little head cock to the side and like, oh yeah, great. That's a Michael moment there. But he's not normally so... It sounds weird for a mass murderer. He's not normally so sadistic about it. Like, I'm going to torment this person I'm going to murder this person in front of their partner.
Yeah,
like he's normally just dispatch, move on, dispatch. So... I think that's what made it sort of more memorable for me, that particular kill. So
yeah.
And I did like when he stabbed the other guy in the eye in the car as well, because I'm like, what are you doing? You're just grabbing this guy around the neck. He's got two hands free. What do you think's going to happen?
It's funny, even though I feel like the kills were the most memorable part of the film, I still can't remember a lot of them.
There you go. Because there are a lot. There was a shit ton.
Yeah. All right, so how are you scoring Halloween Kills overall?
Look, I think I gave the original 8 out of 10 by We Watched the Thing numbers. So with that in mind, when I first walked out of there, I was like, oh yeah, 5 out of 10, just under. But on the whole point scale, We Watched the Thing, particularly after our discussions, I can't do it. I can't give it a pass mark. I'm going 4 out of 10.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm a 5, but I'm a generous scorer. I'm the guy who gave Tommy Boy a 7. So I've got no leg to stand on.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, on our show we do by whole numbers. I'd probably give it like a 46 or a 47. But yeah.
I mean,
it's not good.
I had enough fun with it. I'll say that. Like, I don't regret watching it. And
no.
But I'll also say there's no point giving this a recommend or not, because if you're the kind of person who's going to see this film,
True.
You're going to see it. You're not going to listen to anybody else. It's, you're either into these kind of films or you're not. So
yeah, there's no one starting in the 12th film in a series, but the third film in this timeline and go, maybe I'll give this a bash.
Yeah, exactly.
You're either already in, or your partner's dragged you to watch it and you're already rolling your eyes so hard that you're hating it. So not that we're going to change anybody's mind with this, but I would love to meet. I have met someone. We do know a podcaster, Gerald from 2Ps on a Podcast, who loved this movie, reckons it's the second best Halloween film ever made.
Yeah, I saw his
still
review.
do not understand his perspective at all.
Not at all. Not at all. All right.
There we are. Sad. We didn't even get a big B Dizzle's big call, so I'm even sadder still.
Not for this film, but we've got another record to go, so we'll see what happens.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. I'm sure that everybody who listens to this already knows where to find you, but if you don't, I would highly recommend checking out The Countdown. Can you tell everybody where to find you guys?
Oh, thanks, B Dizzle. You can just search for The Countdown movie and TV reviews. We're on pretty much everywhere that allows you to be as an Australian podcast. And it's a lot more bad, rude words. That's English, right?
Yeah.
A lot more swearing on our podcast is when I count down movies and television sort of topics from 10 to 1 and try and discredit each other along the way. That's basically the premise of the show.
Nice. Well, it's a hell of a lot of fun, so I would highly, highly recommend it.
Thank you.
All right, next week I will be rejoined by my old buddy Topher. We're going to be talking about 1984's Dune as a patron request. Ooh. So I'm excited for that. And also midweek, I'll be dropping a bonus episode on Eternals with Sam from Movie Reviews in 20 Qs. So I'm not the biggest Marvel fan, but I am a Chloe Zhao fan. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that ends up.
Could be very interesting. And you know what fills a Topher-shaped hole particularly well?
Sam Hurley.
Topher.
Well, yeah, Topher.
I just ignored the Sam Hurley Kiwi. You don't really need to take that into account, right?
Yeah. All right. In the meantime, if you want to get in touch with me, you can do that at wewatchedathing.com or wewatchedathing@gmail.com. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, all under the handle at wewatchedathing. If you want to help support the show, you can do that at patreon.com/wewatchedathing, and I'll catch you next week.